Family vacations are a nice way to travel. You're applying for 5 days? That's extravagant in this day and age.
The general manager was sarcastic when I applied for the paid vacation. I'm grateful for the many years I've worked for this company. I can't have my request denied. I got through it with a friendly smile that I am not used to. I got my paycheck. At that time, I had no idea it was going to come to that. I'm Matthew, 55 years old. I'm a clerical worker for a company in the manufacturing business. We're a subsidiary for a big company. I'm a clerical guy. I'm mainly in charge of security maintenance. We have an outside contractor that does all the details for us. I was the point of contact with the contractors.
Mr. Matthew, my director is watching the video again.
I'm at work, and a female employee gives me a look of complete disgust. She sneaks over here to tell me about it. I understand. I'll be careful. I got up from my seat. There are 4 clerks, me, 2 female employees under me, and the manager. 4 desks. They're all in the middle of the office facing each other. From my position, I can't see what he's doing, but the female employee sitting next to me can see him perfectly. I stand next to the manager and clears my throat. He puts on his earphones and keeps his eyes on the computer screen. He's grinning and the sound is leaking out of the earphones. I coughed loudly again and said, "Director Smith, you're in trouble. It's work hours. Please turn off that video now," I warned him. The manager noticed me but gave me a disgruntled look and said,
"Shut up, I'm on the break right now. I'm taking a break so you can watch it. Or what? Matthew, are you trying to talk back to your boss? You're a high school graduate and I'm a top-notch college graduate."
I tell you what, you're welcome to take a break, but please don't watch lazy videos on the company computer. Please don't do that. You might step on a weird link and you could get a computer virus. As your security officer, I can't let that happen. I made it clear to him. Behind the manager, the female employee from earlier was nodding her head.
Matthew, how did you know that I am watching a questionable video when we're sitting across from each other? You mean there was someone who told on you?"
The manager looks at the female employee next to him. She looks quickly down and away. "No, sir. The sound was leaking on your earphones. That's why I noticed and came over to warn you." I pointed the manager's ears.
You think so? I think this woman was curious about it too. They say married women are more skanky."
"Director Smith, that's sexual harassment. What are you thinking?" When the outrageous sexual harassment remark came out of his mouth, I rushed to stop him. The female employee made a bright red face and stared at the manager, but she didn't say anything and went on with her work. I followed up with the female employee after that, and told the president about her insolence, and I just sighed. "Anyway, please stop this lazy video now."
"Shut up, Matthew, you're a little cocky for a subordinate. I'll stop it after the break, so leave me alone."
I tried to warn him, but he wouldn't listen to me. After watching the video for a while, he then hurried off to the bathroom. Is he not ashamed of his behavior? I'm really appalled. After he disappeared into the bathroom, I got in touch with the security company. "Okay, so yes, we rarely use the internet for business." When I finished the call, the female employee next to me.
"Where did you call?"
she asked. I smirked. "It's a security company. I'm about to set the security on the company's computers. I'm going to set the security onto the highest, the most stringent setting. It shouldn't be able to connect to any weird websites. It's just that even if the page is harmless, there are times when it's flagged as harmful. I heard it's better to set it to medium," I reply. The female employee sniffles.
"It's fine. I rarely look at the internet at work anyway. After some inconvenience, I'll make sure Director Smith doesn't watch the video. Please keep on the highest setting."
He must be satisfied that day. When he came back from the bathroom, he did not watch any more dubious video. The next day, when he tried to watch the video, he was blocked by security. He couldn't watch it. He said,
Matthew, what's going on? I can't get my computer to work. I can't open all the pages.
He's furious. I put on a straight face. I turned up the security setting to the max. We've made it so you can't open dangerous pages. It's part of your security measures against cyber crimes. The president was happy to oblige. I replied. The female employees are all talking about it.
There's no problem in my normal work. I can open normal pages on the internet. There's nothing wrong with the internal network or the accounting software.
And they joined me. The general manager looks frustrated. Shit, you'll see. And went to the bathroom with his phone. Me and the other female employees were smirking at each other. I was worried that he might try to get back at me or something, watching sleazy videos in the middle of the day at work. I didn't think of him as a decent person to be upset with me for watching a sleazy video in the middle of the day at work. But I heard that the general manager was a graduate of a top university. He just came from the head office about 3 months ago. He's practically been demoted. I've always wondered why. The head office casually pushes new ones to the subsidiaries. He's a nuisance, but they can't stop him. I understand the head office's point of view. We are understaffed and it's extremely annoying.
This used to be a great place to work. I never thought I'd see a boss like that. No one would have thought that. You're absolutely right. We're still lucky to have Mr. Matthew here, but I wish Director Smith would quit.
Some of the women in the office were saying some pretty radical things. I cringed. I've always thought that if I didn't have any problems, I'd like to retire early and spend my retirement just fishing in the sea. I've always wanted to do that. I still feel the same way. My wife was more enthusiastic than I was. She gathers information on potential places and making detailed plans. Maybe it's time for me to quit, but under such a director. I didn't feel comfortable leaving my 2 female employees behind. Then I got a call. That time I got a call from my daughter and her husband, asking if we could take a family vacation. The destination was a seaside resort, where we used to go on family vacation. It would be a very nice place to spend a relaxing time. My wife was all for it.
Since we're going all this way, let's go for a longer trip. It's the only chance we'll get.
She's very excited about it. They have 2 children. One is a senior and the other is a 3rd grader. My older grandson is going to join a soccer club this fall. They have practice 5 times a week, so before he joins the club, as soon as the kids are on summer vacation, we decided to take a family vacation to a memorable seaside town. I was the first one. It was my daughter's family trip. I thought it would be too much for an intrusion, but my wife was keen on the idea and so was my daughter.
Daddy's purse is my purse. If you don't come, I'll be troubled, so please come.
My daughter said silly stuff, and my daughter's husband also. We're kidding about the wallet, so please come along. The kids wanted to learn how to fish. They want to learn from Grandpa. The son-in-law said, I'm really looking forward to fishing with my grandchildren. I decided to make the best of it. Apart from the paid application itself, I could have done it a week in advance. I didn't want to inconvenience the people around me.
It's nice to have a family trip. You're going to apply for 5 days? That's extravagant.
The manager gave me permission, but he complained persistently. It's thanks to the many years I've worked for this company. I can't afford to have my application denied. I got through it with a friendly smile and a sly smile that I'm not good at. I got the paycheck, but what the manager said next made my head spin.
Well, this is a good opportunity. Why don't you go ahead and resign as a payroll thief?
Huh? Payroll thief? Not understanding what he meant, I repeat what he said. The general manager nodded.
That's right. Isn't it enough for the ladies to do the usual office work? You're just doing a job. That doesn't make any sense in a subsidiary like this place. Who would commit a cybercrime against it in the first place?
I'd rather have you as an afterthought. I can't say it even if my mouth is torn. And of course, I do other work besides security. When I kept my mouth shut, he kept talking.
Security is just an outside contractor. That's a waste of money. Security for a company like this, commercial security software is all we need. That's why you're a payroll stealing liability. I'll give you your paycheck and you can just quit.
The women in the office stopped typing on their computers and looked at me with concern. I sigh heavily. I see. I understand. Then I'll quit at the same time as my paid vacation. The manager smiles at me.
No thanks. Let the women take over.
I felt bad for the women employees. I decided to take the opportunity to quit my job. The female employees who had seen the whole thing, they were angry at me for my outburst as if it were their own.
Why don't you appeal directly to the president?
I told them that I wanted to take the early retirement for a long time, that I couldn't say anything because I felt bad about leaving them behind. Then the female employee said,
Well, if that's the way it is,
they understand me. After that, I told the president. I told him what had just happened and that I wanted to take an early retirement. It wasn't until I was about to quit that the president realized what a mess he'd gotten himself into. Not voluntarily resigned, but for company convenience. He promised to pay me a solid severance pay. I went home to my wife. I explained to my wife that I had quit the company. I explained to her that. She said, It's perfect timing. I was relieved that she was overjoyed, and my daughter and her husband also said,
Well, then you deserve to quit, they said.
And so I took over the next day. I was going on a family vacation with my remaining paid vacation, and at the same time I was quitting the company. The next day, the first day of the trip, I was told by my daughter,
Dad, I think your phone is ringing.
She told me, Oh shoot, I forgot to reset my settings. I'll take this opportunity to delete it. I've only ever worked at the office. I've had my phone and email set to ring. Who would bother to call me on holiday? So I thought it was an emergency. But I'm not working for the company anymore, so I might as well delete it. But then I checked to see who it was from. I didn't expect it to be Mr. Smith. Something's wrong with the text. The email address is definitely the general manager, but it's like an automatic translation, but something's wrong. Oh well, I deleted the email. A few minutes later, I got another email. It's still him, but still something's wrong with the text. Meanwhile, my phone rang. It was the company. When I answered, it was the manager.
Hey, Matthew, I'm in trouble. I need you to do something.
He suddenly cried out. Can you please calm down and explain everything to me from the beginning? Here's what he told me. When he arrived at the office this morning, all female employees were pale.
Sir, this is an important matter,
they said. When he tried to start up his computer in the morning, it didn't work. And that's not all. The factory system didn't work either. It's not like there was a power outage, but the part of the system that's connected to the network doesn't work. The head office got in touch with us too, and all hell broke loose.
The company's internal network isn't working either. The dedicated accounting software is still frozen from the manager's email address. It seems that strange emails are being sent to our business partners one after another. We're getting bills on our phones too. What's going on?
The female employees were talking about it. Our business partners kept calling us to check on the situation. Director Smith seemed to have panicked.
It looks like we've been hit by a malicious computer virus. It could be a cyber attack against our company. You're in charge of security. Don't you know what's going on? I need you to come to the office right now.
I don't think so. I'm on vacation.
Do something, please.
You know what? I left the company because you called me a payroll thief. I have no intention of giving up a fun family vacation and going back. Why don't you just ask the contractor?
I asked them, but our guy is out sick. The other one said he could only go in the afternoon.
The general manager sounded genuinely distressed. Did you talk to the president? I don't know, maybe contact the head office or someone else.
Not yet. If I told the president, it would make matters worse. I like to keep it a secret.
What are you talking about at this point in time? You're already in a serious situation. Report it to the president right now. Tell him to call me. In the event of a computer virus infection, they should identify the source of infection as soon as possible. They need to repair the disinfection system. I don't give a damn about the department head. I just didn't want everyone else to have a hard time. A few minutes later, I got a call from the president. I told him what I was told by an outside contractor. The procedures I had been told to follow in case of an emergency. I kept it in the manual, but in a pitch. It's hard to understand when it's full of jargon. The president of the company is the second most knowledgeable computer user next to me. He understood even the simplest explanation and did the best he could. During that time, I learned that the security system had been changed from the highest to the lowest level. And from Mr. Smith's browsing history, he opened a suspicious website and stepped on a link, and that he'd been infected with the virus. Apparently, the director spent a lot of time yesterday evening on the company's computer, browsing questionable websites. He had no idea that he'd caused such a problem. The boss thanked me and hung up the phone. I could hear his voice was shaking, and I could tell he was furious. After that, I did what I could. I didn't get any calls from the company during the trip. My wife and I liked the beach town where we were traveling and decided to move there. After the trip, we returned home and started preparing for the move. Then I got a call from the president. The president thanked me again and said that he would pay me his cooperation fee in addition to my severance pay. Then, in the course of chatting with me, he told me the story that followed. He told me that the company had suffered a lot of damage. A computer virus had infected the company. The factory stopped working. Customer information and other important information leaked out. Some of our clients requested that we stop doing business with them. General Manager Smith was fired on disciplinary grounds. The female employees, they warned him about it, but he didn't quit browsing. They testified that they warned him on a regular basis, but he never stopped. The company is going to file a claim for damages against him.
I never thought that it would come to this. I'm truly sorry. Please forgive me.
And the manager got down on his knees crying and apologizing. But everyone around him looked at him with blank stares. I guess he got what he deserved. As a matter of fact, before I got the call from the president, Director Smith also called me and was as polite as if he was a different person.
I'm terribly sorry. Please, Matthew, I'd like you to testify that I accidentally opened a sleazy video for the first time and got infected with a computer virus.
I can't lie, and my history will tell you that. You'll have to take care of your own misbehavior, I replied. I'll report the call to the president of the company as well. Also, even though I resigned for reasons because of Director Smith's and the fact that the circumstances of my resignation were so terrible, the head of office got wind of it and they even came to my house to apologize. For the sake of the remaining female employees, I asked them not to send demoted people to the office easily in the future. The problem I was worried about has been cleared up. From now on, I'm going to live my retirement life in a seaside town.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick, is something wrong?" Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job. Having joined the company wanting to do customer service. "I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime," he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. "To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day." Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. "So, you all get a chance." As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. "Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them." It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick! What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, I'm very sorry. Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, get his boss here immediately. It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was. As the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong. Mike, what have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.